And I'm going to start with just kind of some high-level overview of the bylaws and bring up how cons are created, CWAC a while back. This won't take too long. Sometimes we have the chair will talk about procedures they like going forward. I'll talk to Janice. She wants to do that in April. In the past, we've had some members who have required a little extra attention, so we've had to institute some rules for engagement. It's been a while since we had that, so I think we're all kind of, as long as we're on friendly turf, everybody respects everybody's opinion and respects everybody's desire to contribute. I'm not certain we'll really have to implement any rules of order. We try not to go Robert's rules, that's pretty extreme. But when we have to, sometimes we'll simply ask if people can raise hand, be recognized, things like that. Again, we haven't had that challenge for several years, so I expect Janet will probably simply say everybody's on their best behavior, be adults, and respect everybody's ability to participate. So let me share a couple things here, and I sent this out in the packet. Second, see if I can find it. Every application is different in how you share a screen. Okay, so this is in the packet. This is the ordinance. It's actually part of the city charter, which is amended by ordinances. And this is what created the Citizens Water Advisory Group. If you go back on older versions of this, it calls it the Citizen Utility Advisory Group or the Citizens Budget Water Advisory Group. You can see by the code, actually, this was the first iteration of this committee was developed in 1979 and has been amended over time. What really formed the Citizens Water Advisory Committee was in 2003, an ordinance that is reflected here. Nothing out of the ordinary. We discussed all these requirements or suggestions for requirements in the interview process, just that you'd be able to talk about phases of budget, develop work plans along those lines. So nothing new there. What I do want to get into is the rules or the bylaws. These were amended in 2014. Traditional bylaws for any committee, again, reiterates your role and function for council. One thing we did add in 2015 was a quarterly review and report on activities, suggestions, and concerns the committee may deem necessary to City Council for the appropriate policy committee. That policy committee is Water Policy Committee, comprised of 3 council members. This year is chaired by Councilmember Murillo. The vice chair is Councilmember Hiltz, and the 3rd member is Councilmember Coombs. So we do have quarterly reports on top of a report we make to a special study session in September for budget, and that's specifically tied to budget. So this committee actually can report to Water Policy Committee up to 5 times a year. We do take this seriously. We always try to have one of our members attend either virtually or in person and interact with the Water Policy Committee. So we, and one thing we always ask is if they have anything they would like the committee to pursue, please let us know. And from, every committee is different. Every Water Policy Committee is different. Some have appointed this committee to pursue and explore or research certain areas. For example, service line agreements a number of years ago was actually one that they asked for further information from and further feedback from this committee. So it's not unusual to see that. Right now, I think the Water Policy Committee is they're still trying to understand their role and get comfortable in their place. So our next report will be at the April Water Policy Committee. So we'll see what comes of that. The other thing we amended in 2014 was the committee shall consist of a minimum of 7. We didn't have a minimum prior. If you notice in the regulation, the committee is is comprised of up to 9 members. We had a couple times when the committee was perilously close to becoming a 5-member committee. So by doing this, it kind of forced us to heavily recruit. We feel 7's important. It's very easy for a smaller committee to get focused in areas that frankly can become challenging at times. So between 7 and 9. There have been years where we have run it at 7 as well as at 8. We prefer not to, if at all possible. One member shall be a commercial ratepayer. That's something else we also added. Prior to 2014, it was all residential customers, and we felt it was important to have somebody representing the commercial rate side. That's Jay Campbell this year. Jay Campbell is the Vice Chancellor for UC Health and is in charge of the Anschutz facilities. So it's great to get his feedback. Prior to that, we had the facilities coordinator for Aurora Public Schools. So two of our largest water users, if you talk about our top 5 water users, those are 2 of them. So it's great to get their feedback, especially as we bring sometimes very technical challenges forward. To get their feedback has been actually critical. The Code of Ethics is something that has been put in place since 2003. It didn't exist prior to that. For the most part, these are traditional Code of Ethics. We simply ask that you not personally benefit from the information given here. We do not go into executive session, so we don't share confidential information, but you get to spend more time looking at some of our plans than most people do. And so you see some of the emphasis we place in some of our plans. One thing that does come into effect from time to time is D, which no member shall appear on behalf of private interest before the committee. We recognize that many of you are involved in your neighborhood groups, and we welcome that input. It gives us further guidance. But for you to say, today I am here representing this Metro District or this HOA or my firm would be considered inappropriate. We've had several committee members who from time to time have in job positions all of a sudden find themselves in a career that would actually allow them to compete for contracts or for purchases in the city. And at that point, we ask if they would, it'd probably be best if they would resign from the committee, because it gives them kind of a foot out. It hasn't happened for a while. So all terms are 3 years unless they've been stated otherwise. I know Dick's coming up for reappointment this year because he volunteered to take a 2-year term to fill a resignation. That is the exception. That 2-year term does not count towards term limits. There is a term limit of 3 3-year terms, but completion of an existing term does not count towards that. And we verified that with City Clerk's office. We must comply with open meeting laws. So if there are 3 or more committee members, even in an informal session, you want to get together and talk with me or with Marshall about something, that technically is an open meeting, and we must allow people in. We must advertise these meetings 24 hours in advance. City Clerk does that, as well as post the agenda. And that even applies if we do tours. They must then we must make arrangements for public if they wish to attend. Must keep an accurate record. We are subject to CORA, Colorado Open Records Act. So for example, I'm recording this meeting, and I typically record all the meetings so that our administrative staff have a recording to reference for minutes. We must hold on to those recordings for 6 months per Colorado Open Record Act. And then the obvious ones, first meeting of the year, first thing we do, and you notice in January, is we elected the chair and vice chair. We have in the past, by the way, also had 2 vice chairs. It depends upon the interest and the committee's preference. Trying to think of anything else. We never have, fortunately, ever had to face removal of officers, but there is actually a section of the bylaws for that, as well as in the city's ordinance regarding committees. So I spoke before about a quarterly report to water policy, that's there, and then we also do our annual report to all of City Council at the Budget Committee. The only other thing I want to reference here is there was a resolution in 2010 which formalized several things with boards and commissions, and technically a committee is part of the board and commission. And I spoke earlier about number 7, no board or commission may hold an executive session or closed meeting. It says except as authorized, but we don't recognize that you are a policy determining